Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webcast today, Train Journeys with Rocky Mountaineer. My name is Brian Murray, the Director of Travel here at AAA, and I'm delighted you're spending some time with us. You know, this COVID-19 pandemic has hit the world hard, and one of those areas is the travel industry. We've had many disappointed travelers whose spring and summer vacations have either been canceled or postponed, but we're resilient and we'll all get through this pause. What we want to do today is share some great information about travel. And while we may not be ready just yet, we want to help you dream about the next vacation and inspire you to think about all the possibilities. I do want to share that you're all in listen only mode. However, if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question box and we'll be happy to entertain them at the end of the program. If we don't get to your question, don't worry, we'll reach out to you personally to address your questions. I also want to offer all the participants in the webcast an additional $100 off if a new reservation is made within the next 2 weeks of this program. So let's get going. I'd like to welcome Tim Palmer, Business Development Manager with Rocky Mountaineer. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Brian, thank you very, very much. The partnership that we have with AAA Western Central New York is by far one of the best, and I do think that is because of your leadership within that team, but also your team in general. And ladies and gentlemen, you are working with some of the best travel consultants in the industry when you're working with AAA Western Central New York. So thank you for the opportunity for allowing Rocky Mountaineer to be here today. So again, folks, my name is Tim Palmer. I proudly represent Rocky Mountaineer, and we're here to give a little glimpse of planning and what Rocky Mountaineer is all about. Maybe this is a vacation that you're going to think about in the upcoming years. So who are we? What are we? What do we do? It all started with a gentleman named Peter Armstrong. Peter founded Rocky Mountaineer 30 years ago. What a year to have a 30th anniversary. Not the way Peter wanted it to go, but I'll tell you, after 30 years of doing this job and really navigating people on a wonderful, iconic train connecting from Vancouver to the Canadian Rockies, Peter's vision has come to fruition. One of Peter's whole thoughts with this is daylight travel. And he wanted people to be able to see the beautiful scenery of British Columbia and Alberta by train, but not sleep on the train. He also knew the importance of having a host on board. So on all of our trains, we do have several hosts that are catering to your needs. They're doing great storytelling, and they're also handing out alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages throughout the day. So typically their stories get a lot better as the day goes on. Peter also knew the importance of a culinary experience. So we have food that is right from the areas we're passing by, the salmon from the rivers that we are, strolling past, perhaps some Alberta grass-fed beef, even the mushrooms that come from the British Columbia region, and of course, the fine wine that comes from the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia. So again, after 30 years of being in business, we are doing a wonderful job allowing people to experience the extraordinary, and that is Rocky Mountaineer. So you do have to think of a few things when you are booking Rocky Mountaineer or when you're planning a trip with us. And these 4 steps right here are something I'm going to try to cover in today's presentation. So from choosing your rail route to the service level, of course, seasonality, and then understanding what a package option might be like. But at the end of the day, what is Rocky Mountaineer? What do we offer? Well, we offer a train journey that connects between Vancouver and the Icefields Parkway of the Canadian Rockies. That's Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff. So I'm going to zoom in on this map here, but what you're looking at is the Pacific Northwest, so Washington State in the lower left corner, and then British Columbia and Alberta, the provinces of Canada. So we have 3 distinct rail routes. And on the map, you see some white dots, you see some black dots, a green squiggly line, and a couple of solid lines. Well, the solid lines connecting from Vancouver out to Jasper, Lake Louise, Banff, those are our train routes. And the white dots along the way are locations that we overnight in a hotel while traveling on the train during the day. And then that green squiggly line, well, the tracks do not run north to south, connecting Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff. So in that region, you would be off of the train and either motor coaching or doing a self-drive. So the three main routes we have, the first one is called First Passage to the West. This route has the most inventory throughout the year, running between Lake Louise, Banff, and Vancouver. We do go east to west, west to east. So if you want to start in Vancouver, end in the Rockies, or start in the Rockies and end in Vancouver, you can do that on all of our routes. But this is a 2-day train journey that you would be on with an overnight in the town of Kamloops. Journey Through the Clouds is another one of our routes, and this will also be a 2-day connecting Jasper and Vancouver and an overnight in the town of Kamloops. The only route that we have that is a 3-day is the Rainforest to Gold Rush. And perhaps you've heard of Whistler, but I'm not sure Quesnel is on your bucket list of destinations. Quesnel's claim to fame is they have a large gold pan that is at the Welcome Center. So Quesnel is definitely in the gold rush area of British Columbia, Whistler being the epicenter of the 2010 Olympic Games. So that's quite a unique journey doing the 3-day there. One thing that you can also do with our train routes is do a journey, a circle journey, if you will. So connecting two of the routes together, and I'll explain that as we go on. But again, folks, these are 2- and 3-day train journeys, and we use those 2- and 3-day train journeys as the base experience to build a more robust itinerary exploring British Columbia and Alberta. So you're thinking about the route. Do I want to get all the way up to Jasper, or is Lake Louise enough, and Banff? You also have to think about service levels. Now, we are all familiar with service levels when it comes to hotels. We will be overnighting in a hotel every night, not sleeping on the train again. So you do have some choice when it comes to whether you are securing yourself in a 4- or 5-star property throughout the duration of the package. However, you also have to think about service level on the train. And this is where something might be, something you've heard about, the iconic Gold Leaf class of service. Perhaps someone has traveled in Silverleaf and said it was outstanding. And that's just it. You have 2 great levels of service to travel on, or at least choose from, when you are experiencing Rocky Mountaineer. So the Silverleaf is a custom-designed single-level coach. This is a 14.5-foot high train car, and the whole concept of it is big, open, and airy. You can see from the outside how immense those glass windows are. There is certainly a lot of glass inside of the Silverleaf train car. It gives you more than enough room at your seat. I like this next picture a lot, actually. It really shows you how much space and how much light comes into this train car. Now, the caveat to being a single-level train car is that your dining in this situation would also be right at your seat. So having the opportunity to dine with your fellow traveler at the comfort of your seat is something that the Silverleaf offers. You are having a hot breakfast and a hot lunch while traveling with us throughout the day. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's pretty obvious when I look at Gold Leaf what the difference is. The Gold Leaf now is a bi-level dome coach. So you have an upstairs, downstairs, as well as an outdoor viewing platform. But those are really the minor differences that you have. When I think of the day-to-day experience, you're enjoying the same stories from our hosts on board. You are being offered the same exact high-end spirits, beer, and wine. When you look out the window at mile marker 130, you're seeing the exact same scenery, whether you're in the Gold Leaf or the Silverleaf. So it really comes down to the experience that you're having. I would say that this is a notch up, more of a 5-star versus 4-star experience that Silverleaf may have to offer. Having the space on board of being upstairs in your dome for the 2 or 3 days, You do have an assigned seat, and you have an assigned seat in Silverleaf also, so it's not like you have to put a purse or something down on the seat to claim that for the day. But you do go downstairs for dining. So getting up and down the stairs, it's a spiral staircase, or there's also a single person elevator. So mobility should not be a concern whether you're in Gold or Silverleaf. The major difference here with the dining is, of course, being at a white linen tablecloth table here, but also the choice that you get. You'll have 8 different options when in Gold Leaf for your breakfast and for your lunch. And the food is prepared right there in the galley of the onboard kitchen. So very unique experience in Gold Leaf. The prawns and risotto that you're looking at right here, absolutely to die for. Probably the best risotto I've ever had. I don't know how JP O'Clair, our head chef, has designed this, but really some amazing, amazing food curated in this beautiful kitchen here. And then the outdoor viewing platform. So from having the upstairs area to the downstairs dining to an outdoor platform, you really do have a little bit more space to move around. However, the experience, the destination, the sightseeing, the commentary from our hosts, the cuisine itself is all very comparable to Silverleaf. So it comes down to your style of travel and how you want to experience Rocky Mountaineer. So you've thought about perhaps a little bit about the route. You've thought about the service level that you would like to accommodate yourself with. And then you have to think about when to travel. So as far as Rocky Mountaineer being an all-daylight experience, we don't travel in the middle of the winter. It's just too dark. We start our travel in spring, typically mid-April. And you say, well, that doesn't look very springish right there, Tim. You get beautiful cherry blossoms blooming in Vancouver in the middle of April, but you also have a winter element when you get to the Canadian Rockies. I'll talk about Lake Louise in a little bit and share some images of that. Lake Louise is a beautiful lake that's a mile up in elevation, and the ice does not come out of the lake typically until June 1st. So spring is a time where you will get beautiful spring-like weather in Vancouver, but you will still have a winter element through about the 1st of June when traveling through the Canadian Rockies. So that means summer starts in earnest in June, long, long days, sun rising at 4 in the morning and setting at 11 o'clock in Jasper during these times of year. So wonderful experience. The wildlife is out in abundance. And you go from a little bit wetter period of the June, July into a drier period of August, and into September, you start the autumn feel of the Canadian Rockies. Now, majority of us are, I'm calling you today or talking to you today from Massachusetts. So, heart of New England, you guys are mostly upstate New York. Our foliage is a little bit more, colorful than that of the Canadian Rockies. You get a lot of their aspens, so those turn a yellow color. You have the green of the forest there, of the evergreens. But then the lakes will start to show their blues in vibrant colors, and you'll start to get snow on top of the mountain. So the autumn period in September can be very, very delightful, and we've seen it become probably the most sought-after time of year to travel with us. October, however, which is our last few weeks of travel, that can also have a winter element to it. So maybe there's two faces to that of autumn. So seasonality, your service level, your routing. Now let me kind of explain, what do we do? How does this all come together? So what's a day like on the train? They're early mornings. The wheels on the train generally start rolling by 8 a.m., some days possibly by 7 a.m. Again, you're having a hot breakfast on the train, so we are getting you out there early, but it's to maximize that daylight. We are traveling about 300 miles each day at 30 miles an hour. So we have a 10-hour day on the train. Your meals are going to be about 20-25% of that time. You have your hosts that are constantly narrating throughout the day. You're enjoying additional snacks as well as, non-alcoholic, alcoholic beverages. you're taking in the beauty of the region. You have a mile marker map, a map that you're following along with to know exactly where we're traveling and some of the historic as well as geographical significance of the area. So again, early mornings, traveling at a very leisure pace, taking in the beautiful sights. We do slow down to a crawl when we go past some sites like this here, 5 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour, so everyone can take a picture. This is a gentleman taking the picture outside of the Gold Leaf viewing platform, and I love getting the pictures as we go around a bend. Now, I want you to think of something. You're looking at the Canadian Rockies here. We are traveling through a couple of different ecosystems. You have the high alpine of the Canadian Rockies. You then go into a semi-arid desert region in the heart of British Columbia, just outside of Kamloops. So you see this beautiful, landscape of what almost looks like a barren area, rocks that are exposed that are a couple of million years old. And then the wildlife in this region will be very different from that of the Canadian Rockies. From that area, you also get the rainforest region of Vancouver. So from the rainforest to a desert to the high alpine, you're really experiencing a variety of, wildlife, trees, landscape as we travel through this region. No matter where, if you're in the Gold Leaf dining car or you're sitting at your seat in Silverleaf, be sure to keep your eyes out the window. It becomes very hard not to, but the wildlife comes right up to the train in many locations. We are the only pedestrian train that travels between Kamloops and Banff Lake Louise, for instance. This means you don't have high-speed trains on those tracks, and the wildlife has come to those tracks and experiences the side of the trains a little bit closer than I think is safe. But needless to say, it hasn't been a challenge yet, and we get great viewing of the wildlife right from the train. And also great viewings of some natural landscape. The beautiful Pyramid Falls right here. This is another area that we would slow down to about 5 miles an hour so you could get a great shot of that beautiful waterfall. And you can see here, this is in the fall. The little tree to the left is just starting to get its color. So this waterfall is starting to slow down. You can imagine the different times of year. You're traveling in mid-April to mid-May. This waterfall will have ice on it. In June, it is just exploding, raging waterfall. And here we have it into September, where it's starting to calm down just a little bit, but still quite an impressive sight nonetheless. So 2 or 3 days on the train probably would not be enough for most people to come up and join us, for a vacation in British Columbia and Alberta. What does that mean? Well, we have great partners that we have created packages with. I'm going to show you just a quick image, and then I'm going to go back to this one later. But here you can see we're utilizing the route of First Passage to the West at Leisure. That's going from Vancouver out to Lake Louise, Banff. That is 2 days on the train, but this is an 8-day trip. So once we get off the train in Lake Louise in this situation, you would have 5 days of motor coaching, exploring the Columbia Icefield, some of the other great spots. So after you're off of the train, you can choose to either do sightseeing by motor coach or go at your own pace and rent a car through us as well. Either way, you are seeing the beauty of Vancouver, Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff. So Vancouver is typically the start or end point, obviously, for the trip. This is a wonderful city. I'd say top in North America. You have beautiful Stanley Park out there going across the bridge to North Vancouver. When you get over to North Vancouver, you can see the Capilano Suspension Bridge. That's this right here. There's also an opportunity to go up to the top of Grouse Mountain on a gondola and look out all of what Vancouver has to offer. But it's also an active city, a vibrant city. There's many places to go and get, a bite to eat or just relax by the waterfront. And you can see that image here one more time, looking across all that Vancouver has to offer. So after you've explored Vancouver with either pre-set activities or just did it independently, you would have 2 or 3 days on the train. And then depending on what route you took, you may be getting off the train in Jasper. Jasper is a delightful little community right in the heart of the Icefields Parkway in the heart of the Canadian Rockies. You're looking at the skywalk at the Athabasca Glacier right here. For those that are afraid of heights, we have some doozies for you, and this is definitely one of them. That's a glass skywalk looking straight down. But there's quite a bit to do in the Jasper area. This is Malign Lake at the very top. You have the gondola, as I was talking about, maybe even river rafting. It's a calm river, so you're not going to get too wet, but definitely some good opportunities to enjoy all that nature has to offer in and around Jasper. Now, we do want to get you up close to one of these glaciers, so we do take a snow coach to the top of Athabasca Glacier. This is in the Columbia Icefields. You're standing on well over 1,000 feet of ice when you get off of that coach, and the ride on the coach is worth the price of admission itself. Those tires are 5 feet tall. They each cost over $4,000. This snow coach can definitely bring you to places that other cars would not be able to get you to. We also have spectacular lakes and mountain regions in this area. And look at the color of that water. That is not touched up. This is not a photo edit. The glacial silt or rock flour never quite settles in these lakes up here. And you get this beautiful reflection off of that rock flour, which creates that beautiful blue hue. So here we are at the Moraine Lake and the Valley of the Ten Peaks. Quite a beautiful shot to see here. Now, I talked about wildlife from the train earlier, and wildlife is going to change with your season. I love seeing the babies with their mothers in the spring. Getting into the fall period, you start to see the males, elk and moose, they're rutting at this point, coming down to find their mates. So you do have some different seasonality. I think the grizzly bear is a little bit better seen in August, September, as the salmon is starting to run. But I'll tell you, the abundance of wildlife that I have experienced while traveling through this region is second to none in the world. It has exceeded all expectations. I saw more in the Canadian Rockies than I did traveling through Denali up in Alaska. Really just a tremendous place to be able to experience nature as it has been for years because of all these protected national parks in the area. Speaking of a national park, well, now you have Lake Louise, which is right in the heart of Banff National Park, Yoho National Park. And all around the lake itself is this beautiful park atmosphere, but you also have the Chateau Lake Louise. So this is a Fairmont property. 100 years ago, this started as a small log cabin that was a tea house, and through several fires, it has become this beautiful, beautiful hotel. So this makes me think of a few things. When you're staying at Chateau Lake Louise, you can have a room that's overlooking the lake right out towards the glacier, or if you wanted to save $1 or $2, you could have what they call run of house. I want to make sure that when you are booking with Rocky Mountaineer, that you're talking with your AAA vacation consultant, and you're advising them, I love to wake up with the best view. You will pay an extra $1 for that, but we have the means to get you that opportunity. If you don't mind about waking up and opening the blinds to see the lake, and you want to still be able to stay at a hotel like this, we really do feel that any budget can afford Chateau Lake Louise, just depending on the room category that you choose. So please make sure that you are getting what you want when discussing that with your vacation consultant. But Chateau Lake Louise here, from the shores closest to us all the way out to that glacier, is a 5-mile view. It looks like you're able to touch it right when you're sitting out, and enjoying the beautiful Adirondack chairs lakefront at the chateau as well. Now, outside of Lake Louise, this is another shot over near Moraine Lake, actually. There are lots of paths to take. There's another tea house. The Lake Agnes Tea House is in this region as well. So if you are an avid hiker, this is a great place to explore all that the Canadian Rockies have to offer. And then the town of Banff. This is by far one of my absolute favorite towns. Town of about 40,000 during the high season. It gets a little sleepier to maybe 10,000 during their shoulder seasons. You have more than 60 restaurants to choose from, everything from a fondue restaurant to a steakhouse. You have a traditional Irish pub, really just quite a bit to do. And you also have some tremendous shopping. Great opportunity to take advantage of the stronger U.S. dollar when shopping throughout the Canadian provinces. But it's not all about restaurants and shopping. Banff also has a great network of paths that you can go to. Nice pedestrian bridge here over the Bow River. And Banff is known for its hot springs. This is called Banff Springs. So this may look like an everyday pool, but this is actually a hot spring that's up near Sulphur Mountain. And it costs about $8 Canadian to use their cabana to change into things. But you have 105-degree water pretty much coming in at all times, and just a constant, beautiful sight there as well. So this is obviously into the winter months, but this is a very popular place year-round, and it's directly across the street from the Rimrock Hotel. Now, the Rimrock Hotel is one of the 5-star properties in this area. You also have the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, but this is one of the more modern properties. So if you like a modern 5-star experience, I think the Rimrock is a great choice for you. There's also some fine 4-star properties that are downtown Banff, and I prefer the 4-star only because of their location. When you can walk out the front door and experience all Banff has to offer, it really does make a difference. But there are shuttles, there are nice walking paths, so staying slightly outside of town at the Rimrock may not be a bad thing. A lot of our days we have some planned itineraries already. And one of the days that we depart from Banff and head towards Calgary, we start with a sightseeing tour of the Banff area. You're looking down over the Bow River. You can see that blue coloration again from the rock flour, the glacial silt. You also have the hoodoos in the front there, those pillars that have been eroded over the many, many years. We then bring you over to Sulphur Mountain, to the Banff Gondola. Go up to the top of Sulphur Mountain. This brings you up to around 7,000 feet. And 7,000 feet in elevation is the highest point that we get throughout the duration of our trips. So, elevation sickness should not be a concern when traveling through the Canadian Rockies. The gondola brings you right up to that visitor center there. This is a 4-story visitor center, elevators, restaurants, and again, Adirondack chairs. You saw those little hiking trails. When it comes to 7,000 feet, I prefer to sit in an Adirondack chair instead. It is right at the cusp of starting to, have some breathing problems if you're not so active. Unfortunately, I could be perhaps a little bit more active out there, but those Adirondack chairs call me every time. So from there, we have a nice lunch in downtown Banff and make our way to Calgary. Calgary is a Western city. You have a cowboy feel to it. It is a great foodie city. It is home to the Stampede, the Calgary Stampede as well, which happens throughout the month of July. So lots of great opportunities to explore Calgary. You also have the famous Fairmont property and the Calgary Tower in this image here. That Calgary Tower, if you go up to it at sunset, you can see the sun setting over the Canadian Rockies. A couple of buildings have popped up that may be in your way a little bit, but I think you can still get the image when we're out there. So again, we have our 2 and 3 day train tours, train journeys. We use these 2 and 3 day train journeys as the base experience to create a larger package or larger itinerary. So here again is that image of the first passage to the West at leisure. I'm going to blow the map up a little bit here so we can all see it. This is an 8-day trip. You have 7 nights in a hotel. You have 2 days consecutive on the train. You have lots of inclusions. I showed you some of those inclusions that we would have going up on the Athabasca Glacier at the Columbia Icefield, perhaps taking a helicopter tour, going up on the gondola at Sulphur Mountain, doing additional sightseeing around Banff and Yoho National Park. So a trip like this starts around $3,500 depending on service level. If you took all 4-star hotels and Silverleaf accommodations, you'd be just under the $3,500 mark. If you chose all Gold Leaf service on the train and 5-star hotels, you'd be just over the $4,500 mark. You can mix and match. Just because you took Gold Leaf on the train does not mean you have to take 5-star hotels off of the train. So to be able to meet your budget and be able to hit all of the key components that you want in a vacation, you can work with your vacation consultant to make sure that you're getting the accommodations in the style that you want. So another itinerary, this is the Grand Rail Circle. This is now a 13-day itinerary. You're using 2 of our routes. The first passage to the west, that's 2 consecutive days, as well as the Rainforest to Gold Rush. That's 3 consecutive days on the train, but not back to back. So again, this is a 13-day trip, all days in a hotel with 5 days on the train. This will start in 4-star with Silverleaf right around the $5,000 mark. And if you did Gold Leaf with all 5-star hotels, we could get this up to around $7,500. Again, you can play, you can meet your own needs as far as desires for accommodations. And a lot of other great ones out there. But I do want to say working with your AAA travel agent gives you some great benefits. Brian already mentioned one. If you book within the next 2 weeks, you will get $100 off of your package. That is directly from AAA Western Central New York. One thing that Brian also mentioned is that we are in a pandemic earlier. And what is Rocky Mountaineer doing at this point to make sure that safety is a priority? I'm not going to read through all of this. If you do want more information, you could go on to our website. You can talk with your vacation consultants. But essentially, we are looking at various areas of how we can adjust to make sure people are experiencing all of the Canadian Rockies, but doing it safely. And one thing that I think is very important, and people are, have been questioning recently, is the inside of the car itself. How would it be sanitized? And then they talked about what is the oxygen, circulation in the train. The good thing about our train is that we have constant fresh air moving through. So if you looked into that a little bit more, you would understand that there is no recycled air that comes into our train. It is all fresh air that is pushed through the train at all times. Something to think about at that point. Now, as far as travel, you may be thinking about 2020 or 2021. At this point, I would guide you into perhaps choosing a vacation in 2021. We do have our best offer of the year available right now. So outside of the $100 that AAA Western Central New York will be adding on, taking off rather, we are providing an opportunity for 4 free perks. That's 2 additional hotel nights, a transfer from the airport, as well as a dinner at the hotel. And I think the best perk, and you can see that in bold at the bottom, is right now we are only requiring a $25 Canadian deposit. So if you did make your booking in the next 2 weeks, you have actually up until November to put your full deposit down. This reserves your seat. This gives you an opportunity to make sure that you have plans for your vacation in 2021 without having to put up too much money at that point as well. And another great thing, being a AAA member, you do also get onboard merchandise credit. So when you do book a trip with us, On the train, there's no additional out-of-pocket expenses. All of your drinks are included, your food's included. So one of the things that we did when participating with AAA is give you, the member, a merchandise credit. And it's not just a bunch of tchotchkes of, hats with Rocky Mountaineer logo on it or a jacket with Rocky Mountaineer logo on it. We actually have artisans that have created some great jewelry as well as other jade from the area that you'd be able to purchase while on board or even get that for free. So, folks, I can't emphasize enough utilizing the AAA vacation consultants. They are a wealth of knowledge. I've personally worked with many of them, so they really do understand how to book Rocky Mountaineer, and hopefully you'll give them an opportunity. But Brian, I've been rambling a little bit, so I'll let you field any questions and see if I can help out with those answers.
Well, I have to tell you, Tim, it's a great program. I've been in this business 40 years. A lot of our travel consultants have experienced Rocky Mountaineer. I have not yet, so it is on my bucket list, and it's going to be fairly soon. So I can't wait, but you painted a perfect picture, and what an experience from start to finish. So I do want to make a correction. The $100 that we're offering is through June 30th. So we have till the end of the month for our listeners, but you did such a great job and told the wonderful perks. I don't have any questions, so that's good, I guess, but I would like to tell everybody that, again, many of our consultants have experienced the product. They know it well. They can really create that dream experience for you for next year. Now would be really the time to get that settled in and get the best availability. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you for listening and participating. And Tim, I can't thank you enough. And I'll see you aboard Rocky Mountaineer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.